Hi everyone. I know it's been a long time since I did an astrology video, but I figured I found something that was interesting to me that I wanted to share with everybody else. The one thing I want to point out here is that this particular astrology review is a hindsight review. So 2020 makes it perfect. You get that understanding, but I'm looking back at events that have happened in the past, and I was triggered to go look at these because I've been following Bitcoin. So as you've seen on my website, I put up some charts about Bitcoin, about Litecoin, and a couple other coins, and talking about what type of energies come their way, and they kind of sit dormant for a couple of years. So today is the 22nd of February, and it dawned on me that there's been a couple of people that have mentioned a specific date, and I want to share that date with you. And so ultimately, when it comes around to it, there's two dates that were pointed out in one audio, and there was another one pointed out in a video. And these are people that watch the market very closely with regards to Bitcoin, and they're part of the financial world. So they basically have boots on the ground and they're actively involved in it. So the idea is that people have noticed a change in the psychology of things. And so I'm going to show you some stuff on my screen. So basically, if anybody is aware of Jeff Berwick is a dollar vigilante. And back on the 12th of February, he put out a video the day that Bitcoin took over the world. And so there was this point in time where he noticed it. So I'm going to play a little bit of his video here. I'm going to try to edit it down so you get just the appropriate parts. But you can watch this video yourself and go zoom in here at about 24 minutes. That's when he starts talking about Bitcoin. So here we go.
Okay, let's get into crypto because, as I said, I've been into crypto since 2011, $3 on Bitcoin. We recommend Ethereum at $2, currently nearly $2,000. And the whole way along, for the last 10 years, I've been telling people this is going to be huge. There's going to become a day where Bitcoin's going to basically take over the world. And you know what? Just based on everything I'm seeing right now, I'm just going to pick today. February 11th is the day Bitcoin took over the world.
Okay, February 11th is the day Bitcoin took over the world. It's interesting. So I've been following Jeff Berwick for years. It's interesting to see him make that declaration in this video because from an astrology point of view, dates are important. You cast the chart for when the person is born. You cast the chart for when the event occurred. And so here, he's picked out February 11th. And if you want more about what he's saying here, go look at that. Another one that I want to take you to is a interview, an audio. This is the bottom here is Michael Saylor on the fiat standard. So he's relatively new to Bitcoin, but there is about a 10-minute clip where he talks about, he frames the background for the important dates. And I will put a link to where you can go get this, or just look it up. Michael Saylor on the fiat standard audio. You'll find this. Advance to about an hour 30 into it, because it's 2 hours and 13 minutes long. And he talks about, he kind of lays some framework for why he chose the dates. And rather than taking 10 minutes to get you that background, I'm basically going to say that he is the CEO of a company that's worth billions of dollars. He, back last year, back in early 2020, his attention was brought to Bitcoin. And now that he reflects back upon it, he says that the turning point for the world for him was in March of 2020. And so he didn't give a date in March, but we're going to go look at March. Why was March a turning point for him? And then right at the 10-minute, at the 140 mark in this particular audio, he says specifically that there was a psychological phase shift that occurred on February 8th. And it's interesting that he would say February 8th. And I don't know his association with Jeff Berwick, but they both seem to realize this shift at that time. And Michael Saylor mentions this shift in in phase shift with regards from going from being unbacked by the corporations in the banking system to being backed by the corporations and the banking system. As if Bitcoin, all of a sudden, all the cypherpunks that were involved with it before, all the people that were looking for an alternative to the dollar, all the people that were against the Federal Reserve, they just got this new energy that came their way, which is bringing in the CEOs, the CFOs, all those big corporations that are looking for a place to be able to secure their wealth because something has changed for them. So now I'm going to push that audio aside and I'm going to go look specifically at that particular period of time. So first off, let's go look at, let's see, this is February. Let's roll back the chart. I'm going to roll back this astrology chart. So this is my astrology map program. And I'm going to roll it back by months, going back to March. So back in March, I want to draw your attention to Capricorn. And we're going to roll to the beginning. I'll go by days, to the beginning of March. And so what we have here, as the chart rolls into the 1st of March, this was... In January, we had the conjunction of Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter. And by March, it had broken down a little bit to where, but we still have all this energy in Capricorn. So during this time in Capricorn, what happened there? So I'm going to advance slowly. And what we'll see is that in the early part of March, Mercury was in retrograde. Venus is over in Taurus, and it comes up to Uranus, so it becomes perfectly conjunct Uranus on the 8th of March. So remember that. Pluto is within a few degrees of Saturn and Jupiter. Pallas is coming up to be conjunct Pluto over in Capricorn. Advance a little bit farther. The Mars is coming in to be conjunct. So here we are on, go back a few days, on the 8th, the Sun was conjunct Neptune. But it wasn't as important as that Capricorn energy. Mars is coming up to a point here where Moon, Mars, Jupiter, and Pallas are all perfectly conjunct. They're virtually on top of Pluto, and Saturn is right there at the same time. So we have this energy that came together on the 18th of March. And as we move the Moon through a little bit farther, Mars is now perfectly conjunct Jupiter. Mars goes perfectly conjunct Pluto. Pallas comes into it. We have this March 25th that starts to break down. By Saturn rolls into Aquarius right at the end of March. The Sun has moved into Aquarius or Aries, and so the breakdown that occurs at the end of March, Mars has now moved into Aquarius on the 31st, and Jupiter, Pallas, Pluto are perfectly conjunct. Saturn and Mars are perfectly conjunct. When you think about Capricorn energy, so Capricorn energy, just on the very high level, strengths, responsibility, discipline, self-control, good managers, these are the good managers. These are, when you think about Capricorn energy, this is a very work-centered energy. Capricorn are the businessmen. Capricorn are the ones that chase money. They're the ones that are looking after the wealth. They're the ones that want to take care of the family because they take care of the business. And so what we have is we have that. So Michael Sather, who's involved in that, says for some reason in March is when there was a phase shift that occurred. And so, wow, we look at it from an astrological point of view. It's like, this was pretty powerful. We've got Pluto, which brings up all those things that are hidden. It does the underworld. It is the garbage, the sewers. It is the stuff that you don't want to talk about. But it's put in with Jupiter. Jupiter is there to bring this out in the open, and Pallas comes in with that the feminine warrior energy, which is fighting for justice, is fighting for fairness, is fighting for being treated equal. That's all in Capricorn. We just barely rolled into Aquarian energy at the end of that month, and Saturn, which is all about the rules and regulations that has been on top of Capricorn, moved into Aquarius, which is more of a forward-thinking energy, and Mars, which is the action, doing, getting involved. The Mars is seen would be influenced at this point with rules and regulations, very strong at that point, being forced to have to deal with the rules and regulations. And so when you transition this and we go into Aquarius is strengths, progressive, original, independent, humanitarian. They are the ones that are going to be strategists. It's an air sign. They're going to think ahead. And so we've seen 2 planets move into Aquarius back in March. Okay, so that's very interesting to me. And so we look at this and say, well, that was a phase shift. That was important. What we saw back in March was we saw the financial system going through a crash at that time. We saw the main indices in the stock markets came down, and everybody panicked at that point. And when you listen to the Michael Saylor, his audio interview, that particular interview basically is saying that there was a phase shift that occurred. And that phase shift drove, I think here it is, that phase shift, he talks about this as being a critical point. That's what got him into thinking about Bitcoin and how can he protect his business. Now we roll forward, and we're going to roll forward, watch the planets evolve a little bit here. And so I'll go a month at a time: May, June, July, August, October. And so by the end of December, so now if you look in at the end of January, we have in February 1st, so February 1st, Venus is rolling in on February 2nd into Aquarius. Aquarius, we have Saturn, we have Jupiter, we have the Sun, we have Pallas, we have Mercury in retrograde. We have Mars now over in Taurus. And if I'm going to roll back, so you look over in Taurus, you're going to see I'm going to roll Mars back to a point where the Moon, Mars, and Uranus were perfectly conjunct on January 21st, which is very close to that pivotal point at which David Berwick and Michael Saylor are both saying that Bitcoin's taken over the world. It has changed. And so we had that action point. And Uranus, as we know, rules electricity, technology, innovations. It is in Taurus, which is very practical and earthy, manifesting this stuff. We have Mars, which is a drive to action. We have the Moon, which is the people and the emotional satisfaction. Okay, that happened right at that point. It was triggered at that point. And as we roll over and see, we see Venus now roll into Aquarius on the 2nd of February. And as I stroll into this a little bit farther, we had a perfect conjunction of Mercury, Sun, and Pallas on the 8th. And we have Venus splitting Saturn and Jupiter at that point. So now we have Venus, which represents the things that we love in life. It is the things that we care for, the things that drive us. It's our Venus is that the finer things in life energy. So the rich people that are treasuring the money, the finer things in life, here is energy for them that one, it's being amplified, is being brought to their attention by Jupiter. And Saturn shows the restrictions and the changes, the rules and regulations that are now prevalent that they have to think about and deal with. The Sun representing the leaders of the world, which includes the runners, the people that run all these corporations, the people that have access to cash, the people that can print money and distribute that and get stuff done. That's the Sun, is confused with the retrograde Mercury, but it's being talked about, being dealt with. And they have this energy with regard to Pallas there. That Pallas energy is going to be that rebel to do the right thing. I have to change, I have to stand up for things, is going to occur at that point. And so we'll roll a little bit farther with this. So now we roll in a few more days, February 11th. So the first date was February 8th. The second date is February 11th. So February 11th is when Jeff Berwick comes out and says, the world has changed. Bitcoin has taken over the world at this point. He has recognized the psychological change. Michael Saylor has recognized the psychological change that happened here. This is Aquarius. And when you think about the Aquarian energy and all this planetary influence there that's under this Aquarian energy is making it think, making it become the strategist, making it take this air sign, which is mental energy, and think about all the thoughts it's got to think about. It's got to think about what I love, got to think about how I communicate, got to think about the people, got to think about ourselves, got to think about fighting for justice. It's in a big way. And wisdom of Jupiter is here all at that same time. So now we take that and we'll roll it out a little bit farther. So now we have a point where on the 13th, we had Jupiter, Mercury, and Venus perfectly conjunct. The sun rolls over a little bit. Let's roll the sun to the edge. Here, we're going to roll the sun all the way over. So now by February 19th, the sun has moved on. And yet we still have all this energy there. So it's still playing out. We have Venus coming over to Pallas. So by February 21st, we now have this fight for justice, fighting for the things that we love in life. And so that, to me, when I look at this, I think it was recognized by those people as being a critical turning point for the energy of Bitcoin, and specifically with regards to the technology of Bitcoin helping out to be able to understand how to protect the valuable things. Bitcoin has been elevated. Bitcoin has been recognized as being the safe haven asset. That's what people are going to jump into. Now, I'm going to leave it here on the 21st. So today's the 22nd. I'm going to leave it on yesterday's date. I'll take it to today's date. So here we are in today. And what I wanted to point about today was I wanted to look at, we see Aquarius and we see Taurus. When you look at the Aquarian energy and the Taurus energy, they're square. And if I just bring up my astrology program that shows you the wheel version like you see here, the square has been completely amplified here. Mars, Uranus, and being in square with Saturn, Venus, Jupiter, it's a square energy. The square energy between those two means that it is a drive to action. The square is being a dissident, it's being a hard, you're forced to make hard decisions, you're forced to act, get into action. And what we see here is we see a Saturn, Uranus, perfect square, 7.22 degrees, 7.45 degrees. So right now, what's playing out is pretty special. And I had a video forwarded to me from a Pam. I'm going to go get that video. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back with Pam Gregory's video. So you've probably all seen one of Pam Gregory's videos. This was forwarded to me in the context of crypto. But what I really, really like about this video, you should go watch the whole thing, but look specifically at what she talks about with regards to the square between Uranus and Saturn. They are virtually radically different energies, but they're in discord through the square. And it's been recognized by people that have boots on the ground that something significant is playing out here. And so now we look at it and say, well, here we have this Aquarian energy playing out. And you really have to pause this video, go watch Pam Gregory's video, and listen specifically at how she talks about Uranus, how she talks about Saturn, and how they're going to interact. So to me, it's very interesting. Now, that is the 2020 hindsight look at what's kind of happened over this last year. There's been a lot of things that have happened over the last year. But what we saw from last March, which was this high concentration of energy in Capricorn, has now rolled into being a very significant high energy in Aquarius. And it breaks down fairly quickly. So what I've noticed is that when I look at this energy, I've noticed that the energy starts to, so by the 5th of March, we have Mercury and Jupiter in perfect conjunction. Mars goes into Gemini at that point, and we have a new moon in Pisces. So we're going to have Neptune, Sun, Venus, Sun, our moon, and Pallas all in Pisces. Now, we know Neptune's been sitting there for a long time, and Neptune has to deal with our fantasies and what we dream about. There's going to be a point at just a few weeks from now when all of those leaders are going to be dreaming about the possibilities of what this technology can do for them. Okay, Saturn is still in square with Uranus at 8.6 and 9.44, so they're still close enough to be considered square. Mars has moved into Gemini, which is going to make it something that is going to be talked about. They're going to be actively involved in doing those little things, the Gemini activity. They're going to be doing two things at once. But the new moon shows that Venus is aligned with their dreams over there in Pisces. Pallas has moved into Pisces, which means that fire in that is going to be applied to the emotions at this point. So people are going to be very emotional. What I witnessed back in 2017, which was a May and June timeframe, was that there was this hype around Bitcoin back then, which when I met people involved with it, I found people were panicking to get in. They were panicking to get there. And the processes they had to go through were so slow that it made it aggravating for them to get into a position to be able to make them feel secure with what they're doing. Oh, I look at it here and I say, that's what they're going to be experiencing. That's my bet, is that there's going to be anguish with regards to them trying to secure the things that they value in life. And they're going to be talking about it come March 16th when Mercury moves in there. It's going to be obviously emotional to them. Jupiter, by the solstice, so that we roll it to the 20th, the sun's rolled over into Aries. So right on the 20th, we start the calendar over again. But the energy of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto is not as amplified at this point. We still have the Saturn-Uranus square that's playing out, but the rest of it's kind of broken down. It's as if the trigger point of February 8th through 11th was that key time that made everybody aware of it. And now there's a month's worth of time when everybody is in this transitional phase trying to figure out how to make this happen. And then the sun's going to move into Aries at the equinox, not the solstice, the equinox. And I would expect that the energy will calm down or become a little bit more understandable. It would be, when you think about the Aries energy coming into it, you think the Aryan Aries type is going to be the conqueror. It's going to be the one that does the work. It's going to be able to get out there, make things start. It's as if this equinox is kind of going to be the starting energy for this preparation that we've gone through from March as being the breakdown in the old system to what we just experienced here in February. This Aquarian strategist, thoughts have hit people right away, is now going to start to play out. So I'm excited to share that with you. I'm sorry that it was so long, but it was kind of this hindsight thing that I figured I would share, that maybe we'll see more triggers moving forward. We'll be able to see the details, but I'm willing to bet that the concentration of the energies in Capricorn and then in Aquarius were significant enough that it will drive people, it drove people to change, and now they're going to live their change. So other than that, I guess I'll wrap it up. Just wanted to share it. Hope to have another video out before too long about some other topic that I've been following. Have a great day.